debt payments. And also to formulate and implement progressive national and local carbon taxes. And the funds generated could be earmarked for financing climate change adaptation measures, especially investments in climate proofing of the agriculture and fishery sector. I think I will stop here now since I have 0 minutes, according to our chair.
Thank you very much, and I'm really sorry about the time, but as you know, the presentations will be included in your CD-ROM, and so you will have full information. But first, if you have any comments for Atena?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I was wondering if you had a chance to look at the ARM region, that's the region in the Philippines that has a conflict, and how did war affect the impact of climate change issues, and what options did the women have for adaptation in the midst of climate change issues and war?
Well, I would have to say that that was outside of the scope of the study. But I can imagine that in situations of conflict, that it would be very difficult. Well, usually what happens in situations of conflict, first of all, is that communities, entire communities are displaced. And that means they're displaced from their sources of sustenance, from their land. So almost immediately, how can you even begin to talk about agricultural adaptation? For instance, when in the first place they are already displaced from the land, which is their source of sustenance. I don't know if other members in this group would be able to give a better response to your question.
For example, I'm not talking of climate change. I'm partly organizing Muslim women. And all of those that are in areas that's always in conflict, one rule in the family is never buy any equipment or anything in the house that you cannot carry when you evacuate. So that's an adaptation. They don't buy anything that they cannot put on their backs when they evacuate, so they can pull out anything.
Sorry, there's Socorro first, and then yourself.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I think it's excellent. The emphasis on the financing part, it makes it a real concrete form of advocacy. But I'd like to add that when we talk about financing for for adaptation and mitigation, focusing on gender and climate change, it might be wise to look at budgets, not only in terms of expenditures, but also in terms of revenues. Because the revenue side of budgets, of public expenditure, can show the contributions of women to the national budget, particularly the contributions, the uncounted contributions of women migrant workers in the form of remittances. We talked about financing here, and we're talking of foreign direct investments, we're talking of ODA, but remittances are double ODA. So I think one should, if one is advocating or arguing for financing for gender-sensitive adaptation and mitigation, one is also to mention that women actually contribute to the national budget and therefore should have that reflected in the budget, both in the revenue and expenditure side.
I just would like to have some to share something about the conflict area. I come from northern Mindanao, specifically from Lanao. Our organization is also providing some humanitarian assistance to communities affected of the conflict. Surely in the conflict-affected area, it's much more worse. So it's an added issue and burden, especially to women and children, considering the fact that climate change and other issues, poverty and all of that is also affecting them like other areas of the country. Based on our experience in working with this community, well, after so many decades and years, no, of coping up with the situation, well, communities have also developed some forms of coping mechanism. Like one I could cite, no, as an example, in Maranao communities, in particular, where we are working with, we wonder at first why they prefer to plant such crop, for example, ginger. And then we found out that there's a reason behind it. And the sharing showed that they found this crop to be like when during conflict, during evacuation, when they return, they can still have this crop. They can still harvest such. So because of this experience, we said, yeah, in planning for agriculture development in conflict-affected area, we really have to factor in and consider the need, no, for the community to survive, and after they return, no, during the evacuation. So after during the evacuation, many communities they would find their houses burned when they come back. They found their corns damaged when they come back. But at least the ginger, they can still harvest some, no, when they come back. And well, during our community consultations also, like women would, and also men, no, would often express to us that if we intend to help them and facilitate their livelihood projects for them to be able to cope with the situation, they would often ask us if we can provide some things that they can bring with them still when they evacuate, because they cannot expect that they can stay long, no? Especially in areas where the conflict is recurring every few years, no? So it's really one important consideration in any project implementation in conflict-affected areas, especially for women and children mostly. Thank you.